Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. I'd like to acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District operates on the traditional territories of the Squamish and the Seashell First Nations, and we're very glad and grateful to be here. I would like to call us to order at 2:02 p.m. here on the 22nd of July. And we have an amended agenda in front of us today. And we also have, I have one more item of new business that does need to be added on as well. So that will be number 12, which will be, let's see, committee, we're going to call it committee meeting times 2022. I think corporate officer, is that sufficient? Okay, perfect. Directors, before we move to adopt this amended agenda, are there any other items that you would like to have added on? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt this amended agenda as presented in front of us today. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. So we have, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive all minutes, presentation materials, reports, communications, reports, communications, and minutes, yes. Okay, we may have that motion, please. So moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Thanks. It's, you know, it's always one of those things. You always like forget the rhythm until you start getting into it. So, so the next up is our regular board meeting minutes of July 8th, 2021, Annex A, pages 1 through 8 of our package, number 2 on your agenda. Are there any errors, omissions, additions, subtractions that need to be done to these minutes? Not seeing any? No one waving hands at me? So I'll ask for a motion to adopt these minutes, please, of July 8th, 2021. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes or any unfinished business? No? Okay, well, seeing that, we will move on to our presentations and delegations. So I'm going to ask IT to, let's move them in. And we have Kathleen Sudas, the chair, David King, the vice chair, and Warren Hansen, operations manager of the Sunshine Coast Community Forest. And it's regarding operating plan referral CRN 00128. And we'll bring them in. Wonderful. Kathleen, we see you there.
Thank you.
Warren and David, you're welcome to turn on your cameras as well, but I see you have unmuted yourself. So there we go. Well, welcome. Thank you. Okay. There we are. Okay, perfect. So wonderful. So Kathleen, I will put it over to you as chair, and you can introduce your presentation and delegation.
Great. Thank you very, very much, everyone, and I appreciate us being able to be here. I hear an echo. Hopefully that's not too disruptive for you guys.
Okay. Well, I'll just ask everyone to to mute themselves if they are not speaking then. Okay?
Okay. Let me see. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Kathleen. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kathleen Suddies. I'm the brand new chair of the Community Forest as of this year. Warren Hansen is with us as well too. He is our relatively brand new registered professional forester and our operations manager. And we have David King with us as well too today, and he is vice chair. So we're going to be very quick because we know we don't have too much time with you. And we'd like to start off initially with just a very, very brief presentation, and then I'm going to pass it over to Warren, who will be able to answer all of the technical questions that you may or may not have. So Sunshine Coast Community Forest, some of you are aware of our operations plan, the 5-year plan. And as you can see, we have 3 10-year areas on the Sunshine Coast. and the Half Moon Bay. We have the East Wilson, and then we have what we call as Angus Burnett. And then you can sort of see that's what we operate within, and each of those tenure areas you will find our cut blocks or our block areas. So we're really proud because we've taken a long time to get to where we are, but we've got a new process in place with regard to us moving forward with eco-based management, a new way of doing things, a new way of reaching out to community, and we're pretty happy about that. It's a learning process for us, but we're quite proud about where we're going to be going with this. All of those values that kind of come into that community forest stewardship is everything from the ecosystem, the natural systems, all the way through to the community values as well too. And so we're trying to find that balance, and that involves yourselves as the SERD and community at large, and then the science behind what we're doing. And as this slide indicates, community values, of course, are always changing, and there's a really big, broad spectrum of those those values to find balance with. Most importantly, of course, is the environment. We're looking at wildlife, rare plant communities, the reality of climate change, which we're all living with right now. Community needs, there's cultural use, legacy funds, jobs, recreation, access to nature, proximity to trails. And then there's also sort of the legal side of the house, which is the provincial requirements, any kind of infrastructure, government legislation, and the regulations and acts that we're subjected to abide by as well. So you can see within our new operations plan document, our new concepts, what we're talking about, and ecosystem management, better public engagement, variable retention within our block, so it's not industrial style logging. It's a different way of going in and examining each block and determining what we can and can't do there. Looking at biosolid strategies, looking at those community stewardship values, what's really important to community. And then we've got an old growth recruitment strategy where we're looking at forests that have attributes to become the old growth forest of the future for us here on the Sunshine Coast. It's really important for us to be managing that, and we're really excited about being involved. And then our best management plans and guidelines, which is all associated to things like the environmental studies and the environmental support and the old growth recruitment. And in the future, as we get more comfortable and better at what we're doing, we're also looking at some exciting project plans like carbon offset strategies. And so we're pretty excited about where we're going and how we can do that with the relationship of community behind us. So next slide, Warren. So this one here is an operational map of our block, and you can see it's HM70. And what's nice about this is an example of sort of how complicated some of these maps can be. But it's also an example of all the things that we're looking at and what we've been doing. So, for example, in HM70, we've already considered or have in place almost an 81% deferral from the block. So we had 11 hectares available to us as a cut. We're down to 9 hectares that has been deferred to be saved, and I'll let Warren go into the details about that. But it's an example of how we can get in there with the science, with the ecological assessments, with the archaeological assessments done for cultural use, for riparian zones, for wildlife corridors, for winter deer range. All these things all come together. These are all the things that we consider, and then with our eco-based management structure that we're going into. And then with community values overlaid over to that, then we can say, what can we do here that we can defer? What can we do here that we can cut? Trying to find that balance. Trying to find that balance between being sustainable as an industry, as being sustainable as a community forest, but still providing that blanket and that security of environmental stewardship and providing for the future. Warren?
Oh, wait, there I am. Yeah, so thank you, board, for having us present today. More to add with what Kathleen's saying, this operations map, and it's a very complex environment, of course. You know, how humans are interfacing with their forests, as well as sort of the natural ecosystems, and trying to make that all sort of fit together in one concise way is a very difficult challenge. So I know that this is basically I'm segueing into sort of the technical aspects, and I know the board had some questions around our community watersheds around Trout Lake and a couple of other areas, and so I thought maybe I wanted to Director McMahon asked us to kind of give us an overall presentation of kind of where we're at and kind of where we're going, and Kathleen, I think, has done a good job with that. So I wanted to kind of open up the floor into kind of the different questions that were presented or being asked at your last meeting, and I know that Director and Chair Pratt had some questions and concerns around our proposed harvesting in the Milne Creek watershed, and I just kind of I just did a brief little summary of Milne Creek and kind of where we're at with that. And so to give you a bit of a background, Milne Creek is the watershed and the creek that kind of leads into Half Moon Bay, and it was the primary drinking water for the Half Moon Bay residents back in the 50s. Since then, I don't know when it was bypassed, but there's no infrastructure there anymore. We actually looked at with our hydrologist, and we had a hydrologist from Statlu Environmental come and do a community watershed assessment, and that's really looking at the general health of the watershed and the water quality, and kind of like looking at our proposed impacts and what that would look like. And so the Milne Creek watershed includes Trout Lake, as well as the creek, Milne Creek, and those two, we have to see those as two separate basins. Trout Lake itself is actually a dam. The highway provides that dam, and this is the reason why it used to go towards Half Moon Bay with the highway. It actually flows back towards Kenyon Creek. If everybody knows where that goes, it's along the highway, and so it goes along the highway, and then it crosses through, and there's a waterfalls. Everybody knows that down by Sergeant's Bay, there's a big large waterfalls. That's the source, and Trout Lake is the source of that water. The Milne Creek itself actually bypasses the major flows, bypass Trout Lake, and ends up at the headwaters is the old landfill that Half Moon Bay had. Some of that water is at the base of that, starts from that landfill. And it's a bit of a journey to find out where sources of water are coming from, and the SERD has not infrastructure in place, but they bypassed Trout Lake with their infrastructure, and near Trout Lake there's actually a tank or reservoir, and Remco can probably talk a little bit about that as well. There's two or three licenses on Trout Lake, and the idea with that was that it would provide Trout Lake would provide emergency water services, being either pumped out of the lake in order to supplement the water sources that the SERD can provide to the Half Moon Bay North residents. So for us, it was an interesting journey. Our block is above above Trout Lake, and I'll bring up another. Sorry, I'm just going to minimize my screen here. This shows. Just be with me here. I love these. I'm just bringing up our watershed, and so Trout Lake watershed, and this is basically what it looks like. This is the Milne Creek watershed. Our block in comparison is right above Trout Lake. The waters here drain from the Half Moon Bay area, and we've had this discussion. So there's no streams in the block in question, and that was by design. And so for us was to make sure that any water that comes from our blocks is mitigated in a way that doesn't get to the Trout Lake storage area, the lake itself. There's no streams within there, and so we've had the hydrologist confirm that our impacts to Trout Lake is very minimal, being that there's no water or no streams within the block that can provide that kind of impacts. The largest risk for the community watershed in general is it's actually the highway and the uncontrolled access along the pipeline, the natural gas pipeline, and the power line. And in a lot of cases, she's actually identified as trails as being a sediment source to this watershed as well. So I'm not saying it's just this is one of the sort of discussion points by the hydrologist about sediment sources. So the biggest risk to Trout Lake is really uncontrolled swimming and recreational use in the creek or the lake, as well as the highway, as well as sediment sources delivery from roads on the power lines and just general use. And for us, our impacts are around obviously logging in the Milne Creek watershed, but and then how can we mitigate further impacts on within the block itself. We've, as Kathleen was saying, we've deferred quite a lot of our harvesting for various other reasons. We have protective buffers along trails. We also have protective buffers along areas where there's mushroom picking and gathering. As well as we're looking at building temporary roads. So one of the things that we can do is use temporary roads, make them overland, and so that way the impact is minimal for subsurface hydraulic systems, that we're making sure that those are still intact after we've done our harvesting. So this is anyway. There's a lot of information that we ended up are considering, and how we put together a plan. Was there any questions around the sort of the Milne Creek watershed, or any concerns that we can address from the board?
Directors, do you have anything in particular? Just hang on. I'm just going to see if I have any hands. And thank you, Warren. That helped answer my questions and concerns I've heard from the community about the Milne community watershed. So thank you.
Yeah.
Directors, anyone else? Okay, we'll go back to you. I will just keep a note. We are going a little bit over time here, but this is really I know, really interesting to all of us. So we'll go a little bit more.
Okay, no, appreciate it. And one of the things that we invite the board Director Pratt, welcome to, we could do a field walk and you can have a look, and we extend that invitation to the rest of the board if they're interested. So, we understand that this is obviously a sensitive topic, but, we're here to communicate. We're here to, educate and then be able to, work in a future relationship with the planning staff with the SCRD, and we're excited to be engaged from local government, and it's something that we're doing that's new. It's the first time that we've done this, and that we think that this is a relationship worth pursuing further, and and moving forward in the future.
Warren, maybe you'd want, if we've got time permitting, maybe you'd like to just sort of step into the East Wilson area for discussion?
Yeah, it's okay for us to move on a little bit. I will share another screen that I have. I got lots of info. Some of the concerns that we've had is from other blocks, and we just wanted to sort of highlight that some of the staff recommendations isn't quite I wouldn't say isn't quite accurate, but it probably needs a little bit more detail. And so we've have a few blocks that are kind of nearby a community watershed or just outside, and we understand the sensitivity to ensuring that the SCRD's water infrastructure and intake and its pipelines is all protected, and you don't have to worry about what's happening above it. And we have a block around Grey Creek, and that the intake is right approximately here on my mouse. The government shows it in an entirely different area, a different spot. So and we're by design, we need to know exactly where this intake is, and then any sort of water or any incursions within this one here, we were looking at going, no, we need to stay out of that. Not out of the provincial one, but actually what a hydrologist has proven out using LIDAR and the best science, that we're going to be outside this watershed boundary. The other thing is that we've acknowledged that your infrastructure goes along the road, and then it goes into a reservoir approximately here, and it has some issues around, not issues, but a chlorination plant that's here. All this buffer that we're seeing from where we have our proposed harvestings down in there is to protect this infrastructure. So we have like a 200 meter or 150 meter or so buffer to make sure that this infrastructure is being protected. So I just wanted to highlight that, as well as what Kathleen was saying around watershed encroachments on one of our cut blocks that we have planned. And I just wanted to let people know that although we have a block proposed within a community watershed, the government is working on amending that community watershed boundary to reflect the new and evolving science around actual, like a lot of these community watershed boundaries were drawn with 1 to 50,000 mapping back in the early 50s, and then there's also some history where the SCRD moved the intake further up or where it is now, and so the watershed boundaries reflect that change. And that, and then of course we have a proposed block that is outside the proposed new watersheds, but still in the old one. We're we're not doing any harvesting within a community watershed. That's entirely clear. That's our policy. So within the Chapman Creek watershed, actually, and so until this has been amended, this proposal is on hold. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Thank you, Warren.
Any questions, or I'll go back to Kathleen. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, we do appreciate the opportunity to be able to sort of elaborate on our operations and what our philosophy and direction is going to be. And as I say, we're available at any time. If anybody has any questions, we have a website, we have email addresses, we are, just fire us an email, give us a phone call. If you would like a more in-depth presentation, we can certainly put something together for you, particularly when you return in the fall, if that's necessary. And as Warren said, if anybody wants to come for a block walk, it's really great, to have boots on the ground and go for a walk. And those of us on the board, we are community members. I don't think there's anybody that's got any kind of, we have one forester background on our board. The rest of us are all just regular community participants and volunteers. And but Warren is the expert, and he is really knowledgeable. He's 35 years of experience in working with community forests, and he's certainly a solid guiding hand as we move forward with eco-based management.
Great.
And that's it.
Wonderful. Well, I do see a question from Director McMahon.
Yeah, obviously Warren started when he was 10.
You're my number one director. You know that, Donna.
I did have a question, which is that one of the biggest constraints on the community forest is the required annual cut that's mandated by the province. Is there any prospect of the province reviewing those, especially in light of all of the criticism of logging policy going on right now?
Yes and yes. You can change that. You can change that cut So the cut was established basically when the community forest was established. So it was based on our practices back in 2006 or 2005 when it was granted. So we've been in operations for more than 10 years now. A little bit more. And then, so we were looking at, when we get through understanding our inventories, looking at species at risk, fully functional forests. We're looking at, alternative systems, shelterwood systems, selective logs, other things like that, intermediate cuts, to be able to fulfill that mandate, to fulfill that sort of ecosystem-based management. Based on that, we sort of look at our assumptions and say, we can only operate, with less cut or even more cut, just depending on what it is. But right now it's 20,000 meters. And then once we're gone through this sort of exercise for the next, I think I got a three-year project. After that, we'll be looking at, revisiting that AAC. So every community forest has to, and it's all reflective on how we manage, what our management objectives are.
And I just want to just throw one thing in, if I may. And I really do think that as we look at the world around us, we look at climate change, we look at pressures on our forests and our environment. I really do believe that community forests are the way of the future. I believe profoundly that we can be sustainable. We can be an industry that's sustainable. And I think that as we embark forward with this eco-based management, we're reaching out to other community forests of the best that we can pick their brains for innovative ideas and creativity. We have a diverse community of really smart, capable people that are reaching out to us with ideas and suggestions. And I think we can be the best. I think we can do it. I think we can be sustainable. We're very small as far as community forests go, but I really do believe that we can be the mouse that roared. And I think that we need sustainable industry. We've got, great success we've had with solar power being, made cheaper and easier and more effective. We've got battery electric cars that are becoming better and better. We've got water-wise food production management systems that are coming more and more accessible. And I think you can see the same thing with community forests. And I think community forests are going to be the way of the future. They're small, they're community accountable, they give people a voice, and I think that we're the way of the future, and I really feel that we can do it. I think we can pull this one off. We're learning as we go, for sure, with eco-based management, but I think venues like this where we're all talking, it's the way we're going to get there.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Kathleen and Warren and David, for joining us today. I'll just scan the directors and staff, too. If any of the senior leadership team had any questions, be happy to entertain those at this time, or we will thank our delegation. I'm not seeing anyone jumping up, so thank you so much for being here today, and we really appreciate that. And looking forward, Warren, and we'll be connecting to do a little walkthrough in the weeks ahead. Of
looking forward to it, Lori.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. All right. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us. Okay, and I'm sure nobody minded that we went a little bit over there, just to got a really good overview of that, so that's fantastic. Okay, so moving on to the next piece of our agenda, we have our number 4 on our agenda, on the amended agenda, I should say, is Annex B, pages 9 through 11 of our package, and it's the Infrastructure Services Committee recommendations numbers 4 and 5 of July 8th, 2021, as the other recommendations have already been previously adopted. Directors, would you like to debate these two recommendations separately, or seeing no one jumping up, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt recommendations 4 and 5 of Infrastructure Services of July 8th, 2021. So moved Director McMahon, seconded Director Seegers. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Up next, Annex C, pages 12 to 16 of our package, number 5 on the amended agenda, and it is the Planning and Community Development Committee recommendations numbers 1 through 18 of July 15th, 2021. Directors, before we adopt these recommendations as a block, would you like to remove any of them for separate debate? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the recommendations 1 through 18 of Planning and Community Development of July 15th, 2021. Motion, Director Toth, and seconded Director Ties. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, 5A, which is the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendation number 9 of July 22nd, 2021, which is from earlier today, page 16A of your amended agenda package. Directors, would you like to debate this further before we move to adopt? Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt recommendation number 9 of July 22nd, 2021, Corporate and Administrative Services Committee. So moved Director Ties, seconded Director Seegers. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, number 6 of our amended agenda package, and this is the Office of the CAO Monthly Report, Annex D, pages 17 to 24 of your package. I will pass it on over to CAO McKinley, please.
Hi there. Yeah, happy to take any questions anyone has on the Office of the CAO report.
Okay. Directors, I'm looking for hands up for any questions that you may have on this report. Director Hiltz.
Oh, thanks, Chair. The question is on the returning to workplaces. It was on page 18, the phrase, do not attend if you are sick. And I'm getting a sense that this fall is going to be a little bit different than previous fall. So I'm wondering about the transition back to the workplace, and if I got the sniffles, do I come into boardroom? Like how? I'm just wondering if there what work is being done on this. It's because we're not employees, I guess, the board. So I'm wondering how the board is going to be held with in the fall, any work being done getting there.
Thank you for the question. I don't have our updated policy. We're sort of moving away from a COVID-19 response to more of a just general infectious disease control policies and procedures. And what's definitely true is in the past, there was lots of times when people came to the office, whether it's a board member, a council member, or staff member, when they were under the weather because they were going to soldier through it. And that time seems long ago and very inappropriate these days. So these days, the word is if you're having cold symptoms, you don't come to the office. This is not the time to soldier through it and potentially put your workmates at risk. So we are finalizing some policies. We have some policy development done, and I can make sure that they are shared with all the directors.
Terrific. Thank you, Director Hiltz. That was a great question for us. Directors, any other questions on the CAO report? Okay. Seeing none, the next items we have on our agenda are communications. We have received both sets of communications. The first one, Annex E, pages 25 to 32 of our package, number 7 on the agenda, is from Minister Rob Fleming from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, dated July 7th, 2021, regarding BC ferries and project consultation. Directors, do you have any questions or anywhere you'd like to take this communication? Or put it, or discuss it further, or what have you? I'm looking to you for any thoughts going forward. I'm not seeing any hands up yet. Director McMahon.
Yeah, basically that letter seems to have kicked everything right back into our ballpark, but do we want to do any further follow-up with Moti about the seashell bypass study? The last I heard, they had not yet determined the scope of the study. That's pretty critical. In fact, it would be awfully nice if we were consulted on what the scope of the study should be, but I see a hands up from staff, so I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Director McMahon. We'll go over to GM Hall, please.
Thank you, Chair. Staff would just note that we were very recently contacted by the ministry and have a plan to get more information through a conversation with them next week. And so expect to be in a position to share more shortly. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, GM Hall. So if there's, with our quarterly meetings with Operations Manager Michael Braun, with the rural directors, we're, looking at local issues, but for this larger piece, I'm not sure if if we're just waiting for more information to come from staff at this point, unless directors want to do anything else at this time, or just the wait and see approach and see what is bubbling through. What's coming down the turnpike? Down the highway? Down the trail? Okay. With that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda. Just bear with me one moment, because there's tons of pages here. And that is, there we are, Annex F, pages 33 to 36 of our package, number 8 on your agenda. And this is from Cassandra Fletcher, Executive Director of the One Straw Society, received July 15th, 2021. And this is regarding Food Systems Snapshot Project. Directors, any comments, or Director McMahon, over to you.
Yeah, One Straw is going to be a delegation at the Agricultural Advisory Committee talking about this project. So I think maybe that would be the best time to dig into the details if folks are interested.
Terrific. That sounds like a great idea. Any other comments or questions, directors? Director Seegers.
Thank you. Has this letter been referred to the AAC? I know they're coming. They're coming to talk to them, but I looked at the agenda. I didn't see the letter on there. Is that something, can we refer it to them?
Corporate Officer?
If the board wishes to refer the correspondence to the committee, we should make a motion here to do that.
Okay.
I'll make that recommendation.
Okay, so from Director Seegers, seconded by Director McMahon. Any further comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, great. Next up, we don't have any motions today, but we do have some bylaw readings. And the first up is number 9 on your amended agenda package, which is on pages 36A and B. And this is for Transit Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 626.3 2021. And this is bylaws coming forward for 3 readings and adoption. As it was has come through the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendation from earlier today. So this is a weighted vote, and the voting participants are areas B, D, E, F, Sechelt, Gibsons, and SIGD. So we are going to look for, I'm going to ask for for a motion for first reading of Transit Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 626.3 2021. So moved Director McMahon, seconded Director Seegers. Any further debate on this item? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. I didn't see any opposed. So we will move on to second reading. So I'm going to ask for a motion for second reading of Transit Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 626.3 2021. So move second reading, Director Toth, seconded by Director Beamish. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And up next, I'm going to ask for a motion for third reading of Transit Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 626.3 2021. So move Director Ties, seconded Director Seegers. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And finally, for adoption of Transit Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 626.3 2021. So moved adoption. Please, Director McMahon, seconded Director Seegers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, so up next we have number 10, which is Sunshine Coast Regional District Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw. We have received the report already in the motions of earlier today. So before we go into the bylaw readings, are there, just hang on, I got to find the report now. Okay, so the report is in a separate attachment here, and so I'm going to go over to our CFO and see if you'd like to introduce this first, or how you'd like to proceed, or if you want to introduce or anything. Go for it.
Well, thank you, Chair. It's just to provide some background to the context and information that's in the amended financial plan. So again, this is sort of a new practice because we have several financial plan amendments, and legislatively, we formally do have to amend our financial plan bylaw. So that's why it's in front of you today. We're starting to work towards a practice toward doing a mid-year and an end year to formalize the bylaw. And so we have provided an attachment with summary of the changes. There are a few that resulted from our very large budgeting process and the various line items. So there's a few amendments there to various items. So if there's any questions, happy to take them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, just had a little bit of a cough there. It's a good thing I'm segregated on my own and not coughing on anyone else. So I'm going to look to directors to see if you have any questions on the report that has been provided by our CFO. I'm not seeing any. CFO, do appreciate very much having this report and everything itemized there, so it's clear as we move through. So thank you so much for that. So what I will ask for is the second part of the recommendation. We have, as I said, we've already received this, but the second part of the recommendation that the 2021-2025 financial plan bylaw 731.1 and related schedules be amended to include changes from March 25th to July 8th, 2021. So I see that moved by Director Seegers, seconded by Director Ties. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. So then we will go on to the first, second, third readings and adoption of the financial plan amendment bylaw. So I'm going to ask for a motion for first reading of Sunshine Coast Regional District Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 731.1 2021. So move first reading, Director Toth, seconded by Director Beamish. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And next up will be second reading for Sunshine Coast Regional District Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 731.1 2021. So move second reading. Director McMahon, seconded by Director Seegers. Are there any questions or further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And then we will have third reading of Sunshine Coast Regional District Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 731.1 2021. So move third reading. Director Seegers, seconded by Director Beamish. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And finally, I will ask for a motion to adopt Sunshine Coast Regional District Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 731.1 2021. So moved adoption, Director Toth, seconded by Director Ties. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. All right. So next up, we have our director's reports. And I would like to ask for who would like to go first? Director Beamish, you're up. Go ahead, sir.
Can't wait to be first. Few things. So we had a council meeting this last week, and the last one for until September. Some of the issues that we dealt with were wildfire concerns. We did review a risk plan put forward by our staff, looking for public information or provide out public information about fire risk. Also working with staff and contractors to identify risks around areas that they're working and increase inspections of high risk areas in the community. And this discussion was held with Fire Chief Michaels and the SCRD staff, so that probably see something come out in a broader way, a joint way, coordinated way on information to the public. We did also receive a letter that I wrote to the Ministry of Environment, one of the Assistant Deputy Ministers, regarding activity in the recharge area, primarily the Gilmore Road area. But basically, the thrust of my request now is we need to improve our notification, our relationship with the MOE, so that issues of potential contamination or real contamination are identified not only on a public-facing website, but directly to the municipality and the SCRD. I don't think it's right that we should have them go search these out. The ministry comes, they conduct an investigation, they find issues, they issue warning letters or find notices of improper procedures, and we shouldn't have to wait until they're informed by the public that these are a problem. So trying to find a way that we can develop that relationship with the ministry. We're particularly concerned about the recharge area. There may be other areas as well, and this is going to affect now not only the Gibson's well, but Church Road well. The area there, if you go on their website and put in any of your areas, I put in Gibson's and search Gibson's, come up with a number of different warning letters and offenses have been identified in recent years that all have some level of protection, a level of potential to cause concern. So we're looking to see what the response from the ministry is going to be to that. The Gospel Rock Road I mentioned is we've approved the developer to go forward with a plan. It's a plan that allows him to carry on with his project with the development, likely 2 years before it will impact any change to Gospel Rock. In the meantime, council has also expressed interest in wanting to review and maybe make different changes to that area. We had that
Oh, Bill, we've lost your sound there.
Yeah, I heard a lot of noise in the background. To discuss 21st of December, we'll be coming back to discuss options and potential costs, and probably looking at maybe hiring a consultant to take a broader look at that for us. And finally, Music on the Landing has started again last weekend, Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. So come on down, enjoy the music, have a picnic, and we'll be there. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Director Beamish. Up next, I have Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things to report. Attended a developer information meeting for a rental development that's being proposed for Seashelt on ebb tide. This particular developer is new to our community, but they are very enthusiastic and they're very interested in moving this project forward. We did our strategic planning review in person last week, and it was fantastic to get together and to see everybody and meet some of our staff again and meet our new staff, face to face instead of just being the tiny little boxes that they've been for the last year and a half. I attended a presentation from BC Hydro yesterday about electric vehicle charging infrastructure, sort of where they've come from, where they plan to go with it, what charger deployment's going to look like for the next year or two. One thing that they were, interested in highlighting was that the province is intending for 10% of new vehicles sold by 2025 to be electric. And as of last year, we were at 9.5, 9.6% of vehicles sold. So very rapid adoption, and hopefully that keeps up. We've got the airport runway upgrades. The open house is this Saturday from 10 a.m. onward. It is open to the public, and I know that the directors have all been invited to that, so hopefully we see you there. Last night at council, we directed staff to apply for a new grant for upgrades to Inlet Avenue between Cowrie and Dolphin. Sort of there and Mermaid are just about the last of our streets that don't have upgrades done or scheduled or in the works. And staff it's a bit of an extended timeline. I think the deadline for the project is March 2023. So it's going to be a while, but and that was a really fast grant turnaround. I think the deadline's tomorrow. So I'm always looking for opportunities for federal funding. And last night we also approved finally moving forward with the Hackett Park stage. Staff brought it forward to us last month, but it was substantially over budget, and we suggested they go back and talk to the proponent and see what could be done. And they came back to us last night that the proponent has offered to solicit or provide up to $40,000 worth of donations towards the project. So that's huge. Brings it back into the realm of reasonably priced for an amenity. And we're moving forward with that. And staff are also going to be looking at developing a naming / sponsorship policy so that we can look at in the future naming rights for this stage or other district facilities. I think that's all that that's all I've got written down to report. Back in the boardroom, and it's fantastic to be here and to see the couple of us that are here in person. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Director Toth. Up next, I have Director McMahon and then Director Ties.
Yeah, I almost envy you guys being in the clubhouse now, and here I am at home. But I have a longish report because there's been a lot going on in the last 2 weeks since our last board meeting. On July 12th, streamkeepers met with DFO about low water in local creeks. The DFO employee commented that in 27 years of working for fisheries, he has never seen streams this low this early in the season. It's extremely worrying. There's already fish mortality going on, and streamkeepers are monitoring creeks, a number of them, but there is honestly not a lot they can do. That day, I also had a long chat with Chris Hergesheimer at One Straw about their food system snapshot letter that we just received. I also gave GM Gagnon a tour of some of Area E's beautiful parks and our 2 community halls. And also that day, I attended the Scredo meeting. Colin shared a report on hidden professionals, which was prepared for the city of Vernon. And while it was interesting, and while I would love to get better data on this sector, I honestly don't think we need to attract the hidden professionals. Frankly, if we tried beating them away with a stick, I don't think it would do as much good at this point because people want to move here. And this is a group that are pretty sophisticated and able to advocate for their own needs. What I'm much more concerned about is essential workers who are being priced out of the housing market. We've got restaurants that are being closed, days of the week. Our green bin pickup was affected. And I recently heard the ambulance service has been affected by this too. And that's some really serious problem. So, and I shared the Scredo agenda with the rest of the SCRD directors because I haven't been doing that. But if you want to read it, then you've got it. On Tuesday, July 13th, I met with one of our streamkeepers representatives and our MP to discuss how federal funding for salmon could be best spent in rural areas. As usual, the feds have identified municipalities as partners, but they didn't say anything about regional districts. And of course, we cover a huge part of the province and a large number of the salmon streams. We toured Chester Creek, by the way. We went down into the creek near Kirton Road. It was pretty interesting. On Wednesday, met with Town of Gibson's senior staff and Modi about planning for shared roads, Gospel Rock, Galway Point, Chester Road, the Inglis Connector, and Reed Road. I also attended a workshop on tiny homes, and I forwarded the workshop to the rest of the directors. It turned out to actually be a presentation on innovative responses to housing emergencies, like almost instant housing is what some of these folks were able to conjure up, and it was really interesting. Friday was the Gibson's Chamber meeting, and I also got vaccinated, so I'm done. On Tuesday, we held the first meeting of a working group on heat pumps. We're going to try to light a fire, metaphorically speaking. I shouldn't even say that these days. Under retrofits for people living in mobile homes and single-story homes. It's a tough nut, but if we don't start working on it and get our senior levels of government to step up and remove a lot of the barriers, then we're not going to get anywhere. Tonight, I will be having a handover meeting with my outgoing alternate director, Jason Lewis, and my incoming alternate director, Lucy McKiernan. And we'll be meeting at the newest libation station in Area E, which is Banditry Cider on Pratt Road. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to a tour of the Hillside Industrial Park and the demonstration forest tomorrow. That should be really interesting. So, yeah, so that's it, I think, until September. I hope we have no more emergencies.
Great. Thank you, Director McMahon. Next up, I have Director Ties and then Director Hiltz.
Thank you, Chair. I will keep mine pretty short. I was also part of that heat pump working group, and thank you, Donna, for putting that together. Looking forward to some more action in that direction. And then I was able to do a few touch and goes on the new runway, and that was fun as well. So thanks, Seashell, for providing us with a nice, long, and smooth runway. So that was great, and I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ties. Director Hiltz.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to a little bit of downtime in August. There's just no getting around that, and I'm going to take a ferry and do some stuff and visit. And tomorrow is the Hillside Industrial Lands Demonstration Forest Tour, so looking forward to that. So that's with the Howe Sound Biosphere. And in August, I'll be going to go over and visit the Gambier group over there. They have an annual general meeting for their JICA, their community association. So I'll be heading out over there. And I just wanted to say thanks to staff for pivoting and rebounding on the green bin. They seem to really keep the service going and respond quickly. And I see that they're looking for improvements and efficiencies in the waste pickup. So waste pickup is never done, and moving forward and creating some efficiency. So thanks for staff for doing that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Director Seegers, over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to mention a few things. I had the opportunity to accompany MP Patrick Weiler last week on a couple of visits on the Sunshine Coast. He was over here for the week. I understand he had 25 different groups he met with. I did too. One was a visit to One Straw. I'd never been to their facility down in Roberts Creek. So that was really enlightening, and it was interesting talking to them about the plans they have for increasing food production on the Sunshine Coast. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out over the next while. I think as governments, we have a bit of a role to play in that, but it's great to see them take the lead. The other one I attended with was a marina on the Inlet, so Porpoise Bay Inlet. And it was quite interesting. I didn't realize how many of the marinas on the Inlet are closing, which also is contributing to us having a lot of boats in the inlet that don't have a place to moor. So we're looking at that piece. I had a meeting with Councillor Eric Scott and Mayor Little and CAO Stewart from the District of North Vancouver because of an article that came out about what they're doing with regards to derelicts and squatters in Deep Cove. Turns out that CAO Stewart is the president of a community association in Port Moody, and Port Moody was the government first that took this on. So he saw what happened there. Port Moody actually set up an anchorage area. So they got a license for that, set up an anchorage area. In North Van, because Deep Cove is much deeper, they're looking at setting up mooring buoys. So they still have some work to go. They will be sharing some of their documentation with us, but the considerations that we have to look at around that are, what does it cost, right? Because we'd have to set up a budget amount for that. We'd have to set rates and create online registration. We would have to do monitoring, ticketing for those who aren't in compliance, and potentially seizing and disposing of boats if it goes to that far. So there's lots of work to do around that yet. But it is becoming a big issue in the inlet. We are in conversation with the Seashell Nation around this. They know what we've been up to. And we will be approaching the SCRD should we actually be looking at moving something forward. The other piece I wanted to mention was you've probably heard about the funding announcement. We received $3.14 million as an active transportation grant. We'll be constructing just under 6 kilometers of new multi-use pathways and 1 kilometer of bike paths. And this will take the multi-use pathway from the highway, going up Mason Road by West Seashell Elementary to Reeves Road, and then go over to Kinnickinnick Park. That will be a bike path through there, bike and walking path. Once it gets to Kinnickinnick Park, it goes to Kinnickinnick School, and we have funding already on a project that has started that takes it from Kinnickinnick to the top of Trail Avenue. The bottom portion that we're doing is from Toreto up Trail. We have a grant application for the missing piece in the middle. So once we have that in place, we'll actually have the spine and a circle route of over 6 kilometers that will allow us to build out the rest of the community and have people from West Seashell, for example, be able to bike downtown and other areas in the community. So we're building out the spine, which it was great to get the information on. If you go onto Facebook, you'll see me on my bike. I had to pump up the tires. That's how often I use it. But that was good. I want to reiterate what Director Toth mentioned about the airport open house this Saturday. It's from 10 till 12 at the airport. Rotary's going to be involved. We've got the drag racers up there. Planes will be coming in and out. The fire truck, the new ladder fire truck may be there. They were just sorting out volunteers last night. So love to have you there. That's my report.
Thanks, Director Seegers. Before I go to Director Lee, I'll go over to Director McMahon because I believe she has a follow-up question.
I do. Why are all these marinas closing? Is there a particular reason?
Sales, retiring, those kinds of things. So yes, there's more work to look at there. We do need more in the inlet.
Okay. Director Lee, up to you, please.
I just have a question of Director Seegers. How did they get authority to set up those anchoring areas? They must have got tenure from the province, or?
In Deep Cove, so District of North Van is working with the Vancouver Port Authority because they have the jurisdiction there. Port Moody as well is working with Vancouver Port Authority, but they indicate that they believe that the agreement they have with the Port Authority could be a template for something that we could have with the province. So that's kind of where the overlap would come in.
Sounds like actually a pretty good solution. If you tie up all the anchorages and then charge, it should keep just serious boaters in. Yeah. Okay, I can go ahead with my report then, Chair?
Yep. Oh, please go right ahead.
Okay. It's going to be really short. It's nice to get to this stage 3 opening. Our restaurants are all open and they're all busy and the parking lots are full. It's kind of starting to feel like good old days. They definitely are having trouble getting full staff though. I guess part of it's because the younger people aren't fully vaccinated yet. And the other thing up in Area A is that there seems to be new houses going up wherever you look. All of the subdivisions are getting almost built out now, and that's in a very short time. So I guess it's good news. We do have the utilities for them, so that part's good. And just finally, I got to tell you how nice it is to be here in the office. It's great to chat during the breaks with everybody. It's great to have the staff interactions, both the social and the business interactions. It feels like the good old days. And one thing that I noted is that it's so much easier to focus with the big screen, and the whole room is full of sound when people are talking. It's not like when you're in the house and you're trying to, keep everything quiet. This is it's more of a full experience, and it's great to have the other directors here, so you can see that they're paying attention, and it makes you pay attention. So I'm actually quite enjoying this. Anyways, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. Great. I'm going to, you can, going to lower your hand. And it's been pretty quiet in Area B. So with that, we'll just move on to the next item in our agenda, which is an item of new business. We've already we've received this. So what I'm going to do is pass it over to Director Seegers to introduce this this letter that is coming from the District of Sechelt.
Thank you. As part of our meetings with the Union of BC Municipality conference, we reached out to Solicitor General and requested a meeting with them and their support with us to the federal government around cannabis licensing. As indicated in the letter, the licenses that they're giving out are very large, and there's no interaction with municipalities or regional districts, local governments, and yet the people who get the licenses are supposed to be following our bylaws. If we try to find out where these licenses are, we run into a roadblock because we can't get that information. We have a particular problem right now in a couple of our community areas because these large licenses are being used, when I'm talking large, the most recent one that I heard, like this was in the last couple of weeks, they were given a license for 400 plants for their medical license. So the RCMP can't deal with it unless there is a criminal element to it, and bylaw can't deal with it because we don't know if they're legal or not. So we're looking to go to the federal government and say, you need to revisit this. It was put in at a time in response to the Supreme Court ruling that we had to provide a way for people to get access to medicine, that they were using cannabis for that medicine, but it has not been revisited, and there are safety concerns in our communities. When we approached the province to request they work with us on this, they requested a copy of the letter that we were going to send to the federal government. So we had to put the letter together. So what you have in front of you is the letter that we are sending to the federal government, and we're requesting that all of the governments on the Sunshine Coast endorse the letter and sign on to the letter, and then we'll send a copy of it to the province as well as a copy to the federal government.
Okay. Thank you, Director Seegers. I'm going to go to Director McMahon first, please.
Yes, it's a good letter, but there should be a CC list on it, and our MP should be on that list. Just minor point.
MP and MLA.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And any other questions or comments? Director Ties.
Yeah, I want to speak for this letter. I also want to point out that this is a huge part of our economy here on the coast. So I do hope that this is going to be done in a sort of a dialogue form rather than a heavy-handed approach by the federal government in trying to shut this down. So I don't support sort of no holds barred approach. So yeah, hoping for some dialogue between the federal government and us would be great.
Director McMahon and then Director Beamish.
I'd just like to make a motion that the SCRD sign on to this letter.
Okay, so we have that as a motion from Director McMahon, and I see that as a second from Director Ties. Director Beamish?
Just in respect to Director Ty's comments, I guess I'm confused because I don't think that the medical marijuana is actually part of the economy. Is it the medical grows as opposed to the commercial grows that we see?
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, sorry, Chair. Yeah, the medical marijuana, whether we like it or not, it is a huge part of our economy. There's a lot of people who sell to the black market, and there's a lot of cash that moves around the coast. There was that one report or that one presentation we got where $250 million worth of weed gets grown on the coast every year, and certainly that's a larger economic driver than anything else on the coast. So, and not all of that, and of course, a lot of that ends up in somebody else's pockets, or some of the pockets here on the coast. So, yeah, it is a huge economic driver, and that includes the medical.
I'll go to Director Seegers. I'm glad you put up your hand because I was going to go to you anyways.
Thank you. Actually, I think what we're saying is we don't have an issue with the licensing or the fact that it's being grown. What we do have an issue with is there's no oversight. I mean, the people to oversee our area are in Winnipeg. So, I mean, what kind of oversight is happening with regards to this? There are some houses in Sechelt, and offline I'll give you some addresses to drive by and see what's happening in some of our communities. And the concern is the fire department, the RCMP, our neighborhood residents don't know what's in these buildings. It's a huge safety concern. It's the safety of our community. It's also impacting our housing stock. In my other career, I'm a mortgage broker. There is no lender who will lend on a house even when it's remediated, unless you want to pay really high rates. So there's an impact. How do we deal with that as a municipality, as a regional district? That's what we're getting at. There needs to be some thought around how we protect our communities.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so the next item up, item number 12, which was, just bear with me, I just need to find it here. The committee meetings for 2022, and here we go. So for new business, so just to advise the board, as chair, I've requested that staff start the process to establish a community services standing committee. And being that the 2022 meeting schedule is in the process of being drafted, this presents the opportunity to request that staff bring forward options and recommendations for dissolving or finding efficiencies for the select standing committees in contemplation for the 2022 schedule. So I wanted to bring this forward to the board because of the timeliness aspect, and we're going into our summer break. And the 2022 schedule for meetings is being prepped right now. So, so this would, the select standing committees would be policing and transportation. And so I'd like to bring this forward as an item of discussion, and I'm going to go to Director McMahon.
I think there's different ways to do the policing part. Certainly the municipalities have a quarterly report from the police, and that might work just as well for us. The transportation piece is frustrating because I think there's a lot of shortcomings of the committee we've got, and it would be nice to have an alternative because there is no other venue at which all of the parties who do transportation on the coast sit down together. That being Modi, BC Ferries, BC Transit, etc. So I'd be interested in staff, if staff have any thoughts on how we could look at communicating better and addressing some of our transportation issues. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Director Seegers?
Thank you. I noticed that the meeting that we were looking to have, I think it was next week, on remuneration has now been moved to the end of September. And I believe that that conversation was also going to be looking at the committee structure at that time. So are we advising staff to go ahead and revise the committee structure now prior to us having that meeting?
So this is only for select standing committees. This is not for our other standing committees, just for the select ones. What in particular, what I'm dealing with, or what I've brought forward here. In regards to the other question for the remuneration, I believe we already had that in staff direction. I'd have to look to the corporate officer or the CEO for confirmation as part of the remuneration.
So could I, while staff are conferring, could you please put out the motion again that you were talking about?
It's okay. So it's not officially a motion yet, but I can word it as such. Whereas the 2022 meeting schedule is in the process of being drafted, that the board requests that staff bring forward options and recommendations for dissolving or finding efficiency for the select standing committees in contemplation for the 2022 meeting schedule.
Sorry, I thought I heard you say something about a community services standing committee as well.
That's at the first part. In my role as chair, I'm able to so in the role of chair, it's part of the purview to request that staff establish a committee. So I've done that with the communities. I've asked staff to start with the process of establishing a community services standing committee. And that'll be coming forward, terms of references. The corporate officer will be bringing that forward in this fall.
Okay, so I'll say I'm not in favor of that at this point, because at the end of September, we'll be revisiting the committees and the structure and how we're going forward inside of that remuneration workshop, from what I understand. So I will not be supporting that, and I request that it be split into two, because I am in support of revisiting the transportation and policing committees.
That's fine. And actually, the Community Services Standing Committee, it's actually under the purview of the board chair to establish a standing committee. So that'll be coming forward with terms of references later this fall. Okay, so that's actually not part of the motion anyways. The motion is for the select standing committees, which is specifically transportation and policing, to be brought forward with options and recommendations. So we can deal with the community standing committee later on this in the months ahead. Director Beamish?
Do you need somebody to move your recommendations?
Well, I can move it and ask for a seconder.
I'm happy to second it.
Okay. So this is in regards to the staff bringing forward options and recommendations for dissolving or finding efficiencies with the select standing committees.
Correction.
Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. This is only looking at those two committees. We're going to have a conversation with the AAC over their future, right? And
This has this is nothing about advisory committees or anything else. This is only the select standing committees, which are policing and transportation at this time.
perfect. Thank you.
Director Hiltz?
Timing for when the staff report about the select committees would be coming forth?
So the timing, the corporate officer will be bringing forward a meeting, the 2022 meeting schedule. I will pass it over to her because she can better answer that.
Thank you, Chair. So the meeting calendar will come forward in October to the October Corporate and Administrative Services Committee. And if the motion is to bring forward options for policing and transportation, select committee, we could bring that report forward to September CAS. That would be the ideal timing, and then we could contemplate it within when we move forward with the calendar the following month, if that works for directors.
Okay. So is the motion, the way it's worded, specific enough for you?
Yes, that staff bring forward a report for options for policing and transportation advisory committee to look for efficiencies in scheduling, as well as, sorry, can you repeat?
Yes, that staff bring forward options and recommendations for dissolving or finding efficiencies for the select standing committees in contemplation for the 2022 meeting schedule.
That is sufficient direction. Thank you.
Okay. Director McMahon?
At some point, it behooves us to consult the people who are on these committees, the other parties. So probably, I'm thinking maybe when there is a report in hand is the best time, because then we've got some concrete options to discuss rather than just, gosh, what do you want to do? So I think this will work.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Director Seegers?
Thank you. I'm wondering about timing of that. I mean, I agree with Director McMahon about that. But if that report comes forward in September, and then the calendar is supposed to come to us in October, staff will be looking for us to give them some direction in September so that they can go away and put that calendar together. So when would we have the consultation with the group happen around what comes forward to us in September? I'm just wondering how we'd actually, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I don't know how we actually action that.
It's a good question. Director McMahon, or I'll go to the corporate officer first and then over to Director McMahon.
I just want to put out the option that there is one more quarterly meeting scheduled in October for both policing and TAC. And should the board wish to have more consultation with the select committees, we can always go forward with a schedule, including those committees, and later amend it if that is the decision of the board.
Okay, Director McMahon.
Yeah, actually that works for me. As chair of the Transportation Committee, I would probably bring it to the committee's attention when the report comes to the board, just in case anybody's got any very exciting comments. But yeah, that'll work. One more meeting, and then we could have, if we decide to dissolve, we could have a farewell party.
Terrific. Okay, any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Is everyone clear on what we're voting on? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Passes. Thank you. Any further discussion on this item before we move on? Okay, I'm going to the last, what do we got here? Sorry, just bear with me one moment. Next up, we are going to be going in camera. So we're going to make the motion to go in camera, and then we will go to our listening audience and see if there are any questions. So the motion to go in camera, that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with section 91G of the Community Charter, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. May I have that motion, please? So moved Director Toth, seconded Director Seegers. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And over to our panelists, or pardon me, our attendees. And I do see that, I believe that's Donna, and I'm just going to allow you to talk, Donna. Donna, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to ask any questions or make any comments.
Thank you. I was looking through one of the earlier meetings, which Alden was kind enough to drop off the agendas for the corporate services, and so I had a chance to go through that without actually attending the meeting. But there were some things that I found there. I'm not going to be very clear on this yet. I'll go through it later, but I just wanted to bring it up. There were projects in the work that were to be completed. There was a time frame. I think it was some gas tax money, but if these projects weren't completed, the money would be returned. I don't know if that was funded by gas tax, but what I wanted to comment on is that sometimes it seems we're held up by circumstances that are completely beyond our control and not of our making, and still it might wind up leaving us late with some projects. It's something that I'd like to maybe discuss at some point. And rather than keep you all sitting there any longer, I did want to say that that the time that we spend at these meetings, this is a precious time of our lives, and we do spend it with each other. And I respect that fact, and I want to give it the worth and meaning it deserves. And thank you all for working hard with everything that you do. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna, and we so appreciate that you've joined us again. Do you want to set up a time to chat about that question offline, or? I
think maybe it might be better if I got my own ducks in a row a little bit better, so that I'm more precise about what I want to know, rather than taking up too much time of director's time, because I know you guys are really, really busy. So I'll go through it again and maybe think a little bit harder about maybe finding out somebody from staff maybe might tell me how projects are timed and when we get stuck in those situations of being held up and not being able to move, sort of like waiting for the contractor and he doesn't show up, sort of thing.
Yeah. Director Toth had a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on, because it's something that came up at a previous meeting, but I don't think you were attending, listening in. So the gas tax program is set to expire at some point, and it's not known whether the program's going to be continued, renewed, changed, whatever. And it was pretty much expressed that municipalities and regional districts needed to have their funds, if not spent, then at least committed by a certain date. Or for projects, or they would risk having to give that money back, essentially. So just as you're looking at the projects, or you're thinking about the questions, that's where some of this conversation is coming from, is knowing that we can't just sit on this money forever and hope to spend it someday.
Thank you, Alden. That's precisely what I had been looking at, and wondered if that sort of thing happens to us in other ways as well, in terms of funding being offered, and how quickly we can make use of opportunities, and how hard we're going to work our staff because to try and do these things, which often don't get as much lead time as what we'd like. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, and have fun in camera.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, everyone. We will have just take a 5-minute break for everyone to just a quick stretch of legs and make sure that you are securing your space, and then we'll go in camera. So I will see you back at 3:40, please. Thank you and welcome back to the Sunshine Coast Regional District Regular Board Meeting of July 22nd, 2021. And with that, thank you for staying with us, and we're going to make a motion to adjourn. So may I have that motion, please? Thank you. And seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. IT, have any other questions come through with chat or email or carrier pigeon? No? Great. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and good to see you, team. And I'll be back on Coast Sunday night, so if anybody wants to get together in the week ahead, I'd be love to see you. So.
And I have a T-shirt for you.
Do you? Oh, yeah. Great. I owe you money then. So I guess my turn for buying coffee. All right. See you, everyone. Have a great day.